All right.
We are waiting too long.
I know. Our speaker
Yes, everyone's
is
waiting,
keeping.
Sujata. Okay, it started
She's building
recording,
up
so
all the
you can do
suspense
the
and
introduction
excitement.
and
Yes.
Sujata will join.
Yes. So, good evening and welcome everyone to today's session on the very first part of Miasms. We have finished with the introduction in our last lecture, and today we'll be dealing with the very first and the deepest and the longest known miasm of chronic miasms called Psora. Um, so, before we start, let me just give you a quick background. In today's class, we'll not only be discussing the history of Psora, we'll also discuss the characteristics and the manifestations. Also, make a note that we will mention a lot of remedies. And before you start reading the slides, just remember that Psora is to do with the functions in the body. So, any derangement of the functions in the body will lead to the manifestations or the symptoms, which is typical of psoric miasm. So whatever elements are present in the body, all the elements, micro as well as macro elements, like carbons, the different carbons, and sulfur, iron, etc. Any derangement, any deficiency in these, or imbalance in any of these elements, or these these elements will cause functional disturbances. So when you read the slides that are being presented, and when you see that certain complaints are typical of Psora, try to relate, think of deficiencies in those elements, in those nutrients, and try to relate those symptoms to the presence of the manifestation of these drugs. So let's start. Sujata, you can start.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes.
Uh, 1 second, I'm
Very
sorry.
No, I think they need to
Everyone
read the screens.
can everyone hear?
I would.
Because two people have been telling that they can't hear.
No,
Just
listen,
please
let me
restrict
just
your
type.
browsing,
Uh,
please.
yeah, I'll just
Unmute.
type, because if we can't hear, there's no point in us telling them. So let me just type it.
Yes, now everyone's audible. Yeah, great. Okay, sorry, Sujata. Please continue.
yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
A very good evening to everyone. So, like you all know that today is the second session about miasms, and in previous session we discussed about miasms as a general interpretation. So today we'll discuss about Sora in details. And when we heard about Sora miasm or Soric miasm, the one thing that comes to our mind that this is the monster, this is the fundamental cause behind so many chronic maladies. So, so now we'll discuss about how this word from where it comes from, and its development and its detailed symptoms. So, first thing is that the dictionary meaning of word Sora is the itch or some such similar skin disease, the itch mite or psoriasis. So this is the dictionary meaning of word Sora. The word Sora has a derivation of Greek and Latin, but it is rather a Hebraic in origin. So original word is Sorat, from where the word Sora is derived. So that word Sorat, the original word is Sorat, which means a groove, a fault, a pollution, a stigma, often applied to leprous manifestations and to the Great Plague. So this is the meaning of original word Sorat, from where the word Sora is derived. But Hahnemann used the word Sora with some special connotations and denotations, means some other concept, some different idea and concept. That idea is Sora is the most fundamental cause of so many chronic maladies, and it is the most ancient, most universal, most destructive, and yet most misapprehended chronic miasmatic disease. So that is the concept of Hahnemann behind Sora. Then the history of Sora. So it is the most ancient miasm which has gradually passed in some hundreds of generations through many millions of human organisms and had become the mother of all the thousands of varied diseases. So it's just passed gradually from generation to generation, and it produces almost about 7/8 of all chronic diseases. So in ancient times, Sora mostly related to leprosy manifestations. But after ages, cleanliness gets better. There is use of cotton and nylon shirts and warm baths and also some diets, well nutritious diet and mode of living improved. Then the external horrors of Sora, the severe symptoms, severe external manifestations of Sora within the space of several centuries were moderated. Then at the end of 15th century, it appeared only in the form of common eruption of itch. So now we'll discuss about development of Sora. So it has the three stages of development. First, the mode of infection. Second, internal development. It develops internally. And then third is external manifestation of the symptoms. And external manifestation of the symptoms also has three stages, that is primary manifestation of Sora, latent stage of Sora, and then secondary manifestations of Sora. So this is the development of Sora. So first, the mode of infection. So we all just discussed that it is each eruptions. So the fluid of those each vesicles contain the soric miasm. That fluid of each vesicle contain the soric miasm. So if that fluid come in contact with skin, the miasm gets an entry in the body. So it is that easy to communicate by touch. So that's why we all are by default has the soric miasm inside us, because it is that easily communicated by touch, and that each vesicle's fluid contains the soric miasms. So as soon as it come in contact with the skin, the miasm gets an entry in the body. So that's why we all are by default has this miasm inside us. Then it's internal development. So as soon as the miasma of itch, or that vesicle, that fluid of itch touches the skin, that infection is not remain as a local infection. The nerves which are first affected by the miasma has communicated it in an invisible manner to the nerves of the rest of the body. But during the first few days, after each vesicle, the fluid touches the skin. During the first few days, there will be no symptoms, no eruption, no itching, even not even that particular spot where it infected. During this time, the Sora is internally developing. Gradually, it's developing. And when the miasmatic disease, that Sora, has received complete internal development, the local symptoms break forth. Then the external manifestation of Sora. So now the external symptoms are showing. So first in primary manifestation. So approximately about 7 to 14 days from the moment of infection, the entire internal organism has been affected by Sora. So Sora just got through its complete internal development. Then after a slight or more severe chill in the evening and a general heat, followed by perspiration in the following night, the vesicles of each will appear. Okay. So with slight or more severe chill and some general heat, the perspiration in the following night, and after that the vesicles of each will appear. And that vesicles of each, then there will be voluptuous tickling itching, which compels the patient to rub and scratch the skin. And after that, there is a burning sensation follows. So that is the primary manifestation of Sora. that is the eruption of itch. Then the latent state of Psora. So when the primary manifestations are treated by local applications, those eruption of itch are treated by local applications, artificial or natural. Natural means artificial means some cream, ointment, and that all. But natural means some weather conditions that will just suppress those skin eruptions. Those skin eruptions disappear. So by any kind of local application, be it artificial or natural, then the local cutaneous symptoms, that is the eruption of itch, disappear. That means it's suppressed. That's why the disease is driven inward and may remain dormant. And this state of Psora is called the latent state. During this state, the person looks normal. But when such persons are exposed to some adverse circumstances, the latent Psora awake and show its symptoms through various types of show itself through various types of symptoms. So that is the secondary manifestation of Psora. When health is weakened by some cause, either exciting or maintaining, then the Psora, which has still now slumbered, still now in a latent state, awakens and breaks out as the several severe chronic maladies. Then we'll discuss about some characteristic symptoms of Psora. So here I will just discuss about some important characteristic symptoms, not all the symptoms because all the symptoms are already given in book in a systematical order. I will just discuss about some important characteristic symptoms that Psora has. So first, it causes functional disturbances. Sensation as if is the characteristic. It causes the functional disturbances. That's why in a sensational, the patient, the functional disorders are belongs to psoric miasm. So if there is any structural changes in the patient, then Psora must be complicated with any other miasm. Alone Psora cannot cause any structural changes. It will start with functional disturbances. And sensation as if is its characteristic. So the main cause of Psora is suppression. Any kind of suppression brings on psoric manifestations. That is suppression of eruptions, suppression of emotions, excitement, grief, sorrow, fear, and suppression of skin eruptions, suppression of normal body discharges like perspiration and menstruation. So any kind of suppression that brings on psoric manifestations. Then some important symptoms. So first thing is that psoric patient is oversensitive patient. It has sensitiveness to everything, be it noise, to light, to odors. So psoric patients are very much oversensitive patients. Like in this pic, you all are saying that it's sensitive to noise, to light, to odor. So everything the psoric patient is sensitive, oversensitive. Okay. Then weak and debilitated and easily fatigued. Psoriatic patients are easily fatigued both mentally and physically. And there is profound prostration follows with desire to lie down. So so that's why they dread to take any kind of exhaustion, be it mental or physical. They are easily fatigued. Then they always have a fear that his illness is incurable. He's going to die. He's going to die now. Or if he is not taking the medicine, then he will die. His disease is incurable. So he has always afraid of dying, but he lives on for years because there is functional disturbances. The patients who die are the psychotic and syphilitic ones, but the psoriatic patient has a fear of dying, but he lives on for years. And standing is the worst position for psoriatic patient. He cannot stand still. The patient must walk. Either he walk or if he is standing, then he will lean against something if he is on his feet. So he will lean against something like in this picture, he's lean against the wall or in table or anything that will just take his body wet, because standing is worst position for psoric patients. Either he walk or he will lean against something. He cannot stand still. And psoric patients are dirty, the great unwashed. There is aversion to bath. They just don't want to get bath. So there is they are the great unwashed person. It is skin, so that's why the skin becomes dry, unwashed, and appearing with numerous eruptions. And those eruptions are has so much intense itching that will lead the patient to rub and scratch the skin, and after that the skin burns and smarts. So the dirty persons, they just don't want to bath, and after that there is skin problems arises and there is skin eruptions, and those skin eruptions has intense itching that will lead to just rub and scratch, compels the patient to rub and scratch, and after that skin burns and smarts. And their most complaints are from cold, because they are usually chilly patient and very much susceptible to cold. All the complaints are due to most of the complaints cause behind those is cold, because they are the chilly patients. Their all complaints are aggravated in winter and ameliorated by heat and in summer. The pains are relieved by warmth. So their symptoms are aggravated due to cold. That's why aggravated in winter weather and ameliorated by heat and in summer. And the pains of Psora are relieved by warmth. Hands and feet burn, flushes of heat, especially over face, and there is vertigo, because there is functional disturbances in brain, so the brain becomes anemic easily. Therefore, in psoric patients, we will see various kinds of vertigo, and vertigo from walking, vertigo from motion, even looking up quickly, rising from the bed, from sitting for some time, and after that rising, then they will feel vertigo. So they have any and every kind of vertigo symptoms, because there is functional disturbances inside the brain. And there is persistent headache constantly coming back, headache with various attacks, nausea, and vomiting coming once or twice a month. So they have the persistent headache. That is the and that pain is sharp and severe headache with various attacks and nausea and vomiting. And that headache will come once or twice a month. Every month they will have this kind of headache that is persistent and constantly coming back. And also there may be paroxysmal headache. Hair dry, lustreless. Lustreless means dull, and there is no sign in the hair. There is dull looking hair, and that will tangles easily, breaks and splits easily. So hair is that much dry. That's why it tangles easily and breaks, splits easily. So dull and dry hair, and that's why there is dry, scaly, bran-like dandruff with or without itching. So there is dry, scaly dandruff with or without itching, and the face may be pale, shallow, earthy colored with sunken eyes and blue rings around the eyes. So psoric patient face will express that something wrong has happened with the patient. He is not well. His body condition is just reflect in his face. So they are very sickly looking, like in these pictures. They are very sickly looking. Through their face expressions, through their face, we will know that there is something wrong with this patient. So that's why the face is pale, shallow, and earthy colored with sunken eyes and blue rings around the eyes. and there is bad smell in mouth and burnt taste in mouth. So bad smell in mouth and burnt taste in mouth is the most characteristic of psoric patient. Burnt taste means like if we eat something burnt thing, then that taste is called the burnt taste in mouth. So that is the characteristic of psoric patients. They desires for hot foods and meat. They desires everything in hot, warm foods, hot foods and drinks and meat. But there is aversion to boiled food. They desires for hot foods, but there is aversion to boiled food. They desire in fried food, oily food, spicy food, but there is aversion to boiled food. And there is hunger at unnatural time. Means after eating they will feel hungry, and in midnight or after sleeping they will feel hungry. In midnight they will feel hungry. So hunger at unnatural time is a characteristic of psoric patients. There is all-gun sensation in the stomach, sensation as if hot, wet, fullness, tightness in the stomach region. There is also sensation as if there is some stone or lump in the stomach. Like we discussed, that sensation as if is the characteristic of psoric patients. So there is sensation of weight, fullness, tightness, or sensation of stone or lump in the stomach. There is flatulence, distension, audible rumbling in the abdomen. That rumbling is audible in the abdomen, and that is oats during the morning. Diarrhea induced by overeating from pride. So if there is diarrhea in psoric patient, that will be must be induced by overeating or from pride, bad news, or any audience. Also, when preparing for an unusual event for taking cold, because psoric patients are chilly patients, so all the elements are from cold. And early morning diarrhea. Diarrhea is worse in early morning, and in diarrhea, stool usually watery or consist of imperfectly digested food. If there is constipation in psoric patients, then there is persistent constipation. No desire to pass the stool. Stool is dry, scanty, hard, and difficult to expel. An alteration between constipation and diarrhea, that is the characteristic of Psora, that there will be alteration in constipation between constipation and diarrhea. Sometimes patient is constipated and sometimes there will be diarrhea. There is burning pain in the chest, band-like sensation in the chest, sensation as if there is some band around the chest, around the heart region. So heart symptoms are always associated with anxiety and fear. Like we discussed, that psoric patient always has fear of death. So that fear of death is mostly related to heart symptoms. If there is something heart symptoms, then you will become anxious and fearful that definitely I am going to die, and there's something, this disease is incurable, and I will definitely die. And so heart symptoms are always associated with that mental symptom, that is always fear and anxious, fears about dying. That's why psoric patient is always conscious about his heart condition, and it is who constantly taking his own pulse. He is afraid of his disease. He thinks that it is incurable. So he will constantly need physician's attention. He will constantly come to physician that this is happening, and this is all, and what medication I should take and everything. So he is always fearful and anxious about his health condition, and he thinks that he is going to die. There is so much afraid of dying, but he lives on for years. There is painful retention of urine in children and in old people. So there is painful retention of urine in children when body becomes chilled because they are the chilly patients. Cold causes many symptoms. So that's why painful retention of urine in children when body becomes chilled. And in old people, due to great distension of bladder with fullness, as if it was extremely full. Then there is smarting and burning on urination. This is due to the urine becomes acidity. So smarting and burning on urination due to acidity in urine. In female complaints, there is amenorrhea. There may be amenorrhea, irregular periods, either too scanty or too copious, too early or too late periods. Dysmenorrhea shows itself very early at puberty or at climacteric. Leukorrhea is scanty, not exhausting. Pains are usually sharp and never colicky. Then the male symptoms are there is nocturnal emissions, too frequent with little erections, chronic knotty swelling of the testicles, indurations and enlargement of prostatic glands, sterility and impotency without any organic problems. So, some characteristic of Psora is that deficiency, insufficiency, wants, and scanty are psoric, are the characteristic of psoric miasm. That is DIWS, that is deficiency, insufficiency, wants, and scanty. All the deficiency diseases are related to psoric miasm. All hypos like hypotension, atrophy, hypoplasia, all hypos are related to psoric miasm. Lack and weakness, dryness of mucous membrane. So these are the some characteristics of Psora. So now the treatment. We all know in psoric miasm we have anti-psoric treatment because in homeopathy we choose medicine based on symptom similarity. So like that, the medicines which have characteristic symptoms of Psora, like we discussed about the characteristic symptoms of Psora, those medicines which have those symptoms as their characteristic symptoms are called the anti-psoric remedies. So some anti-psoric remedies are, so here I just mentioned the remedies which have purely Psora as the background. So those are some of those are sulfur, that is the king of antipsoric, Rustux, Noxburn, Chalcinium, Carbovase, Petroleum, Asclepius, Abrotanum, etc. etc. So, so after that, how we can select a medicine in a case of psoric miasm. So in case of primary psora, if the psora is in its primary manifestations, that is the best stage where we can cure the psoric miasm, because the eruptions of skin are already on the surface. So if each eruptions are still on the surface, then complete cure can be effected by sulfur alone, only the smallest doses of a potentized preparation. But however, eruptions are of different varieties. So we cannot give a sulfur for every case. We have to take the totality of symptoms, and based on that totality of symptoms, we can choose a perfect antipsoric remedy for that case. So if the psora is in latent state or in secondary manifestations, then eruptions are suppressed by local applications or by naturally under certain conditions. Then it is impossible to cure psora by sulfur alone. In fact, one single medicine or only medicine is insufficient to cure the entire psora and all its forms. So it requires if the Sora is in its latent state or in secondary manifestations, it requires several antipsoric medicines given according to the symptom in order to cure the entire Sora completely. And Sora can be completely cured when we, in secondary manifestations, we give the medicines, and after some time, if the eruptions of speech are again appear, then we think that it's on the way to recovery. And based on the totality of symptoms, every time we should choose the antipsoric medicine. Then mode of administration, that is requisite dose should be given in tongue. Best time for taking a dose of antipsoric remedy is early in the morning while fasting in empty stomach. In the early morning, the stomach is completely empty, so that is the best time to taking a dose of antipsoric medicine. And it should be taken dry and allowed to dissolve on the tongue or moistened with 2 or 3 drops of water on a spoon. Drinking anything after it or eating anything within half an hour or a whole hour should be avoided. Patients should keep perfectly quiet at least a full hour, but without going to sleep, because sleep delays the beginning of the action of medicine. In females, antipsoric medicines must not be taken shortly before the menses are expected and not during the flow. If necessary, then a dose can be given 4 days, that is about 96 hours after the menses have set in. After the menses have set in, after the 4 days, we can give the dose if necessary. And in pregnancy, in all its stages, offers so little obstruction to the antipsoric treatment that this is often most necessary and useful. The dose should be as small and in as highly potentized attenuations as possible. And in infant never receive medicine, and we give the medicine to the mother, and through the mother's milk, it acts on the child very quickly, mildly, and beneficially. So that is all about Sora. So I hope this will help, and thank you so much.
Yeah, very nice presentation, Sujata, especially with all the pictures with the people depicted in the various complaints. Uh, Rashmika, is it possible for me to use the board where I can type some stuff when I'm talking? Whiteboard, no? Can I use the whiteboard? Is it possible?
Yeah, you can use the whiteboard. Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Try using
Okay,
it.
I'm not. Let me see. No, it's not. How do I enable it? 1 second. I just want to write down the various points of the psoric manifestations. So if I can note it,
1 second, I'm just trying. Yeah.
hold on.
There's one draw option. Yeah. If you
Yeah,
can
you
see
can.
the draw. Okay. So you basically in the niche
Yeah, yeah. Hold on.
you see that draw option, that pencil option,
Huh.
or the arrow mark option, pointer option.
Arrow.
Okay, fine.
No, I don't
I'll
have it.
tell you.
Yeah, I have it.
Um,
I got it. I got it. I got it.
yeah, you got it. So
I got it.
you got to click draw,
Got it.
and if you want to
Got it.
erase anything, you can click erase.
Yeah.
Just
I think
try
I
with
need the type option. So just hold on. Okay. Text. Yeah, I got it.
yeah. Text is also there. Great.
Huh. Okay. I'll do it. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So very nice presentation. I think it's covered Sora in quite a lot of detail. And so just I'll come straight to the point. If you want to study Sora and if you want to understand the miasm, these are the following points in this order that you can, learn it in. I'll just type it down. Uh, Hold on. I think all of you just focus on what I'm typing. You can copy this down if you all need to. The last point, I'm just going to add it just for a bonus bit of knowledge. Okay. So this is Sora in a nutshell. So first you understand the history of the itch and its progress. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of years ago. Not thousands, maybe hundreds of years ago, where hygiene conditions and garbage disposal and general way of life was very different from what we are used to today. They didn't have hospitals, they didn't have sanitization, they didn't have disposal methods like we do. So the infection of the skin was very rampant. So people picked up the sora, the itch, and that spread rapidly. And understand that this is one aspect of sora, understanding that the itch was what was the ancestor. It's literally the ancestor of sora, the miasm. So almost everybody had some skin manifestation or the other. Of the lot, you had leprosy, which was very, very common. And leprosy is very contagious, so it spreads to a lot of people, and many people were infected. And it is manifested with the vesicles, with the fluid, the infected fluid that will pass from one person to the other. They used to share their clothes, they used to share their bedding, they used to live in close proximity to each other. There wasn't much of disinfectant use. So it spread rapidly. So you can say almost the entire world had some form of skin complaints or the other, and it manifested so deeply that it started causing imbalance in the elements of the body. So the various elements now that are present in the body are, I'll come to that. So it caused so much of disturbance in the elemental balance in the body that it started giving rise to other complaints. So what Sujata had shown, that there was in each and every organ system there is something or the other. There are inflammations, there is anemia, there is diarrhea, constipation. There are not just skin complaints, it goes even deeper than that. And then also these elements can go into deficiency. So iron deficiency, sodium deficiency, potassium deficiency, and the disturbances and deficiencies can cause dysfunction in the body. So the theme of Sora is dysfunction. Okay, loss of function or deranged function. So it can never go deeper than that. You're stuck only at a functional disturbance. So you will not find stuff like cancer, ulcers, tumors, or fluid collection, or too much of infection, deep-seated infection, destruction. These things will not happen. They're not part of Sora at all. Coming to von Gravogel's classification, this is very interesting. This is also mentioned in some of the textbooks. Von Grovogel said that the body it is influenced by three different kinds of reactions. So what are the elements in biochemistry, or what are the elements in organic chemistry that we have, that we are familiar with, that are present in abundance in the body? Can anybody answer? Just type it in the chat box below. Anyone? What are the three elements that are very abundant, that form the basis or that form the foundation of living organism? What is HYR? Do you mean hydrogen? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Perfect. There is also nitrogen, because nitrogen is the most common and most abundantly found element on the earth. So very good. So we divide the three miasms based on the derangement or the disturbance in any of these three elements in these three elements of biochemistry. Now, the most abundant and most commonly found element in living organisms There are two actually. One is carbon and the other is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the most common element on the earth itself. 79% is nitrogen. And the other is carbon. Carbon can be found in various forms. It can be formed as graphite, it can be seen as diamond, it can be seen as, animal carbon, plant carbon, different forms. So carbon and nitrogen form the basis and they form the structural integrity of the living organism. So any disturbance in carbon and nitrogen can lead to deficiencies, can lead to functional disturbances, can lead to skin deep complaints, nothing deeper than that. And there will never be any, there will not be any prominent pathology involved in derangement in the carbon and nitrogen. And therefore, Psora can be equated with carbo-nitrogenide constitution because it is only a functional disturbance. What about the other two? As a bonus, I'll tell you the other two also. You have hydrogen. The next element is hydrogen. Hydrogen is present everywhere. Hydrogen is also very important reducing agent. If you remember your 12th standard chemistry, and hydrogen, it forms one half of water. So hydrogen also has very destructive properties if it is not controlled because it's a very reactive element. It has that one valency of one. So, hydrogen bomb or nuclear weapons. So hydrogen can cause a lot of destruction. And what happens is it can cause, it can actually take away layers of the tissue. It can actually destroy the entire organ. And what miasm corresponds with that? It's nothing but syphilis, destruction. And the last is oxygenoid. I'm so sorry. I said the opposite? Hydrogenoid corresponds with psychosis. It's not destruction, it is water. So hydrogen forms the element of water. It is one half of the water, one half of the element that forms water. Therefore, any excessive fluid, any fluid imbalance, any excess of anything, overgrowths or too much of discharge, where there is a lot of fluid imbalance involved, where there is a lot of fluid collection involved. So you have dropsies, you have effusion, you have pleurisy, you have tumors, you have fibromas, you have cysts. Cysts are nothing but filled with water, vesicles. All these are psychotic miasms. So therefore, hydrogenite corresponds with the psychotic miasm. Last comes oxygen. Now, you've heard of oxidative states when there is oxidation. If you see silver or if you see any of your cells, body cells, if they undergo unnecessary oxidation, there is a destruction of the cell. So, where is destruction? It occurs in cancer, it occurs in ulcers. So, that forms the basis of, unhealthy oxidation. Presence of oxygen is different, but when you undergo oxidation, that is harmful for the body. And that corresponds with syphilitic miasms. Let me just type it down for you. When you understand it like this, you will not forget. Just don't by heart it. Carbo-nitrogenoid. Lot of typos. Okay, so if you can understand and if you can understand the concept, then you know that you don't have to ever by heart this. You'll never get it wrong. So that's how Psora, psychosis, syphilis corresponds with the von Krauberger's classification. Now, Herbert Roberts says that the following elements are found in the body. That is the halogens, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Then you have carbons, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. Then you have lithium. Then you have the non-metals and the reactive elements like silicon, phosphorus, calcium, manganese, iron, magnesium, aluminium, cobalt, nickel, copper. So all the remedies that correspond to these elements are your psoric remedies. And any disturbances, any deficiencies can cause the psoric manifestations. So Sujata, can you just go back? Can you show me your slide if you're still around? Are you there? Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, let me say it myself. So she said many things about There is anemia, there is amenorrhea. So the
Yeah, ma'am.
amenorrhea of Psora, can you just show me your slides, the one where all the complaints, all the symptoms are present? If there are any questions, any doubts, please you can start typing. You don't have to wait for me to finish talking. We'll discuss them side by side. Um, Ma'am, this all symptoms are seen in Sora patient during
Yeah,
practice
ma'am.
in one. No, not necessary. Not necessary. You'll never find all the symptoms in one patient. No, it's not possible. For one person cannot have all the complaints simultaneously. But you must understand the cause and the history of the complaint. For example, if they, like the other day, I had given an example of nux vomica. So what happens is, in nux vomica, the patient has a night out, enjoys himself, and comes back, and he has disturbance of, some digestic disturbance. That is purely psoric. But over a period of time, if he has been doing the same bad habit over and over again, there will be some sort of, incoordination, or there'll be an excess, there'll be a lot of fluid collection. No, Sujata, that one, the where all the symptoms you've started, no? So then you can think of psychosis. And then lastly, if he's drunk so much of alcohol over so many years, there'll be cirrhosis of liver where there is destruction, ulcers forming. So then you can consider syphilis. So it progresses. So SORA is purely, you can find the same symptoms. Not, I'm not talking about the disorder, the symptoms in all the three miasms, but the manifestation and the cause and the progress is different in all three. So Sora's gastritis or Sora's diarrhea is purely functional. It's because they would have eaten something outside, or they would have, had an allergic reaction to something. Whereas in psychosis, it could be because of some effusion, because of some dropsy. Whereas in syphilis, it could be because of ulcerative colitis. It's just an example I'm giving. So try to understand that way. Mental symptoms of psoric patients. So psoric patients, because psora is the beginning of all diseases, the patient is not very deranged, or patient has not undergone very deep changes or very destructive changes yet in their body. So psoric patients usually are at the beginning of the disease. There is not much damage that has occurred on a deeper level. It is more superficial. So what happens is, a psoric patient usually is alert, is active, is quick. There is no, destructive change like a depression or like a mania, or like a actual psychiatric disorder like delirium or dementia. It's not reached that stage yet in a psoric patient. If it has, that means the miasm has changed to something else. So psoric patient mentally is still very alert, very quick, but they're also very sensitive to their surroundings. Sensitive does not mean that they are, delicate and they will react. That's not the only reason. That's not the only meaning. It also means that there will be a lot of awareness of their surrounding. Like in dementia, you're not aware. So in a psoric patient, they are aware. They know what is happening. Because they're aware, they're also reacting to it. A psoric patient has a good reaction power because they're not that damaged or destroyed yet. Yeah, so oversensitive patients, so they're sensitive to noise, sensitive to light, sensitive to odors, and sensitive to thunderstorms. So because they react, they're sensitive to all these things. The body still has the capacity to react. It's not gone into a certain destructive phase yet. And also, a psoric patient has a lot of anxiety, has a lot of fears. They're very good at what they do. And what happens is they have short bursts of efficiency. Like they can do, if you ask them to study one chapter, they will study it perfectly. For the next 15 minutes, they'll sit and study. Ask them to study the whole book, they can't do it because they get tired easily. Because there is a functional disturbance, there'll be some deficiency. So because of that, they will get tired after some time. They start having vanishing of thoughts, sudden vanishing of thoughts. So then they will not be able to continue or keep at it for a long time. They get tired quickly, both mentally and physically. So that fatigue that sets in prevents them from wanting to proceed or progress further into the activity. So it's like a vicious cycle. You do something with a burst of energy, you get tired. Because you get tired, you don't feel like doing it. So then you slow down in that. So it progresses in that direction. And a psoric patient, there is also a lot of grief and sorrow because again they are sensitive, again they are touchy, they do care about their surroundings, they are aware of what is going on, so they get affected emotionally. They're still, their emotions are still raw, still very, they're still very present. They're not destroyed. They have not undergone years and years of bad exposure, so they do feel the grief, they do feel the sorrow, and not like CPR that we spoke about yesterday. CPR doesn't care. She develops indifference because she's no longer psoric. So psoric will still be very raw in that sense. They tend to react a lot. So there will be a lot of grief and sorrow. So there is a lot of build up inside because of that, because of reaction power. So they feel better getting it out, letting it out. And yeah, I'll explain the constitution of Sora. That's what I'm saying. So they're alert, they are reactive, they are sensitive because their bodies are still not damaged, their minds are still not damaged. It is only functional disturbance, which can be brought back with a little bit of medication or change in the lifestyle, in their habits. So they feel better because there is a lot of built up. They feel better by letting it out. So a psoric always feels better by elimination. So it can be anything. It can be urine, it can be diarrhea, it can be perspiration, it can be menstrual flow, it can be anything. But they always feel better with the elimination. It has to get it out of their system. They can't keep it inside. Someone who keeps it and suppresses it for a long time is not a psoric, is a syphilitic. Okay. So that is another characteristic of Sora. And there rarely you'll find pathological changes in Sora. So anybody who has diarrhea or anybody who has rhinitis or cold and cough, it's only because of some environmental change, something they did in a recent past. It's not something that is caused by some deep manifestation, pathological change over all these years. Okay, what is the next question? Mental symptoms of psoriatic patients have answered. What is the meaning of all gone sensation? So again, we spoke about all the elements in the body. It all comes down to that. All the elements, if there are any disturbances in these elements, there will be some corresponding complaint. So just think sodium, iodine, potassium, calcium, all these other elements that are present that are being put to use on a daily basis. And what what happens is if there is any, so for example, if a person has any disturbance in the sodium or they have any disturbance in iodine, so then the thyroid gets affected, because of which the metabolism gets affected. So even though they're eating, they feel hungry immediately because it's got metabolized, but then the assimilation is not as quick. So there is some imbalance, some functional imbalance. Ideally it should be that, okay, it's digested, it's been assimilated, you got the energy from it. Maybe digestion has taken place, but then the assimilation has not taken place for whatever functional reason. So because of that, the patient feels hungry all over again after eating a good meal. You see this; it's very common in natrium. You find it common in iodium. So this is the all gone sensation. It feels like everything is gone. All of it has gone from their system. They don't feel full. So that's the meaning of all gone sensation. Secondary manifestation. Okay. Yeah, I'll come to why Sora has burning palms and soles. Let me just explain what is secondary manifestation. So the primary manifestation is the history, the itch that we're talking about. When Hahnemann studied miasms, or studied chronic diseases, he could categorize the three chronic. See, we're talking about a time when Hahnemann had no clue what bacteria, what viruses, what germs, what microorganisms were. All they had was symptoms in front of them, and they had whatever bit of treatment that they used to present and what they should treat the patients with. So using the knowledge, imagine trying to study diseases without having any knowledge of microorganisms. We're talking about the 1800s. So at that time he realized that three chronic diseases existed. The chronic diseases could be classified into three different categories. In that, the one where the symptoms are similar to that of psoriasis, which existed from so many years, which caused functional disturbances, which caused deficiencies in the body. It corresponded with the Sora. But then it's not necessary that the patient has to struggle or has to suffer with the psoriasis. For example, if I am a Sora patient, I have not had Sora at all. I mean, I've not had psoriasis at all in my life, but my symptoms are very similar to that of Sora, and it corresponds to functional disturbance. Maybe my great grandfather had psoriasis, and from there he's passed on the gene to my grandfather, from my grandfather to me. So the next generation to the generation after that. So what I am suffering is the secondary manifestation of the Sora that existed 3 generations ago. So that is called secondary manifestation. It is a manifestation of Psora-like disturbances without actually having Psora, the disease itself. You get it? And these Psora-like manifestations are what we call the psoric miasm. So I explained constitution of psoric patient. Why does Psora have burning palms and soles? Again, functional disturbance. So if there is any disturbance in the elements, if there is an iron deficiency, again, I told you all these elements. So just go to this. I'll give you the page. Just read all of you. Once you read this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Here. So this chapter by Herbert Roberts, he talks about the elements in the body, and if there's some derangement or if there is some disturbance in any of these, try to correlate to the medical terms itself. Now that we're all doctors, now that we all have medical textbooks, we know what germs are, what pathology is. Try to correlate. Just don't say that, oh, burning soles and palms. Where do you see burning soles and palms? You find it in anemia. You find it in what do you call you can find it in diabetes also, but diabetes is not psoric. And also there is a circulatory disturbance because of that. A psoric will also have a lot of circulatory disturbance because of these deficiencies, because of these functional disturbances. What are the few tissues that get disturbed during any derangement or any deficiencies? One of them is your blood. It's the most important connective tissue in the body. And therefore, if there is any circulatory disturbance, there is a lot of flushing. So a psoric will have a lot of flushing, sudden bursts of, gush of blood, sudden burst of, flow of blood, or sudden burst of body heat. So because of that, that can cause localized burning, the burning palms and soles. Yeah. What else? Any other questions? I shall explain the next point. So I stopped with the von Grovogel's classification. I finished with that. What are the drugs that correspond with Psora? Hold on, let me just type it on. So here's my whiteboard. Okay, the drugs that correspond, I'm going to mention the three greatest anti-psorics ever. First one is sulfur. Hold on. Okay, so these are the, can you read them? Is it visible? Otherwise I'll type, yeah. It's not, okay. So it's basically sulfur, calcareous carb and lycopodium. I've run out of page. Okay, let me see if I can type it here. Okay. These are the three great anti-psoric remedies. Other than that, you have all the other carbons like graphitis, carbo animalis, carbo vegetabilis. Then you have, one second. You have natrium mure, because natrium is after all a very important element in the body, sodium. Then you have all the kalis, kali carb. Then you have ferrum, ferrimet, ferrum, phosphorus, silicia. These are all psoric. See, if you see, all the drugs can be psoric because psora is obviously the stepping stone or the very first step of any disease. But then some drugs you'll find it progressing to the other miasms also. So literally you can say, okay, all drugs are psoric. But the ones that are specifically psoric and that don't show, too much of the other miasms are these. And of the lot, sulfur is called the king of antipsorics. Do all salts come in psora? When you say salt, are you talking about natrium? No, not all come. Natrium sulf is a antipsychotic remedy. So no, it has to be in combination. It's so strange. Natrium mure is psoric. Sulfur is psoric, but if you say natrium sulf, it becomes antipsychotic. We'll come to that. We'll discuss it when there is psychosis. But no, all of them don't come. It has to also have the effect. These are all present in tissue in in the specific amounts, and they also have specific functions that the body is dependent on. If you see the intracellular and extracellular fluid, the content is very prominently natrium ions, sodium ions, calcium ions, magnesium ions, and what else? Chlorides, sulfates. So, sorry, chlorides and carbonates. So these are all a presence of, these are all very, these are literally present in all the cells of the body. Okay, can someone answer? Now I'm asking you all a question. Can someone answer why sulfur is known as the king of antisorics? A very easy answer. So don't, break your heads too hard. Yeah. Come on, make an attempt. Answer. It can't be too wrong. So all of you should try and answer and think of why sulfur is the king of antisorics. Don't tell me the all the symptoms correspond to Psora. That's why. Hmm. 2, 3 people are typing. Very good. I look forward to hearing your answers. Related to skin complaints, but why? Why is it that the skin complaint is flaring up in sulfur? He's dirty, so skin symptoms are prominent. That's fine, sure. But then you have skin complaints even in natrium, you have skin complaints in silicia, you have skin complaints in lico, you have burning in phosphorus also, you have burning in arsenic also. It covers all the symptoms of Psora. Yeah, I just said don't give me that answer. No, you're right. But then there's another reason. There's a simpler reason, more specific reason. See, I gave a lot of explanations up there on those points. Huh? You have to take the hint from that. I'll wait for Ritu to finish typing, Ritu and Mayank Pandey, and then after that I'll give you the answer. That is, if they have not got the answer already. No, sorry, Ritu. Nothing to do with skin complaints. I mean, yes, sulfur is prominently a skin remedy, but that's not the reason why it's called antisorics, king of antisorics. I think even Rashmika and Sujata can attempt answering this. Because of its flower. Isn't sulfur an element? What flower does it have? Sulfur is an element in the periodic table, isn't it? Scrophilus diathesis. Okay, till everybody finishes answering, let me explain Scrophilus diathesis. Scrophilus is nothing but glands. So, glandular affections. We are not talking about the abnormal enlargement of glands. See, what happens in inflammation, it's different. So, the tonsils can get enlarged in inflammation, tonsillitis, or in adenitis. But then, if it gets abnormally enlarged to a point where it's not reducing even after medication, that is different. So scrophula diathesis is with any of the glands, the tissues that cause that have inflammation, where the drug has typical affinity to the drug to the glands, where there is inflammation causing fever and other affections. That is called scrophula diathesis. Diathesis is nothing but tendency of a particular organ or particular tissue. So calcarea carb is a very good example of a scrophullar remedy because there is so much of glandular enlargement, glandular inflammation without any deeper pathology. Covers all manifestations of Psora. Yeah, it does, but then why? The question is why? Why does it cover? We all know it covers Psora, right? That's why we're calling it the king of antisorics. Symptoms are dormant stage. No, they're not. I mean, if you talk about latent Psora, still it will get manifested under the right conditions. Sujata and Rashmika, even you two can attempt answering this. It's not a difficult answer. It's just that it needs a little bit of an explanation. Rashmika, you can just switch on your video and answer. No problem. Manifestations due to suppression. What are we suppressing in sulfur? Sulfur, if anything, the symptoms are violent and they come out quite voluptuously. The word voluptuous is something that is very intense. So a lot of itching. The patient wants to scratch like desperately, and till the point where it bleeds. Only only remedy that is capable of removing psoriatic complications. No, there are so many remedies that take out psoriatic complications. You have psorinum, you have lycopodium, you have calcarea carb, you have graphitis. All of them are very good anti-psoriatic remedies. It gets potentized firstly, crude form later, like that. Psora is also latent first. No, 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 no. Good try, good attempt. I mean, all your explanations are not wrong. They're not wrong, but that's not the reason why it's called the king of antipsorics. I'll tell you why. Okay. So the reason I gave you that history of the itch, I've written on the whiteboard, elements present in the body, deficiencies, that was the big hint. So the three most common elements in the body are carbon, sulfur, phosphorus. All three are psoriatic remedies. That is any of the carbon remedies, sulfur and phosphorus. Of the lot, sulfur is the most abundant because it is forms the base of every cell. It is found in all the proteins. It is found in the DNA. If you notice that the DNA helical structure, there is sulfur in that also. So sulfur is abundantly found on the Earth's surface and it is abundantly found in the body. So if there is any change or if there is any derangement that has to happen, sulfur obviously will get affected, the sulfur balance and the sulfur, functioning. So because of that, a lot of symptoms will occur that correspond to sulfur, the potentized drug. That is why most of the symptoms correspond with sulfur in an antipsoric, in a psoriatic patient, and that is why it corresponds with sulfur. It's called king of antipsorics. We don't want to consider sorinum because it is a no sod. It's directly lifted from the psoric. It's a discharge itself. So that's not fair. You can't take a psoric discharge and call it the best anti-psoriatic remedy. Sulfur is the king of antipsorics because of that. I hope the answer is clear. It's one of the most common. It's one of the most common and one of the most integral elements found in the basic structure of living organisms. Please ask one more question. You want me to ask a question? What shall I ask you? Okay. What else shall I ask you? Why didn't one of you ask me something? We'll build on that then. But is this clear? Is today's lecture okay? Not to you, to all. Yeah, yeah. It's not your viva. Don't worry. Yes, Amit. Just a request. Maybe next time, Kanchan, I'll prepare a quiz for all of you at the end of it, just for your, just for fun. I'm not going to grade anybody on it. Hmm. Yes. Please do a webinar on periodic table. So instead of doing, yeah, we can do that. Instead of periodic table, we'll consider it as a family like halogens, put the Kali group, then so you can't have anything on the non-metal elements like phosphorus, silicia, sulfur, all those come under the same group. Yes, we can do it. We can do it. It's a very good suggestion. And if any of you is interested to present some webinar, please let us know. You're most welcome to come forward, like our student speakers like Ankita or Sujata. If anybody is interested, you're most welcome to. It'll be refreshing to have a new person talking on uh, see a different point of view. Yeah. It's very nice. Periodic table is a very good topic, and I think it is one of my favorite topics in chemistry in the 12th standard. So we can do halogens, that is chlorine, fluorine, bromine, iodine, all these. We can do this group once and then understand. Very interesting. Very interesting. Just like how we study it in the periodic table, we'll study them as drugs also. Similar symptoms. Been an interesting webinar to attend. Thank you so much. Ma'am on Ophelia group. We'll come to it. We'll do all the groups. Right now we're taking drug by drug. Then we'll also do group wise then. Okay. Syphilis and psychosis. Mayank Pandey, yes, that's coming up. Today was Psora. Next week will be psychosis. The week after is syphilis. Don't worry, we'll not leave you hanging. We'll complete all the miasms. Yes, Ritu, we can. I mean, you can. So, susceptibility. Susceptibility was covered in, I think, what was that? Sujata, what was that? We did susceptibility, no, in posology, no? I think, yeah, correct. So in posology, we covered susceptibility, but if you want, we can have another topic. No problem. So miasms was on popular demand, so then that's why we had to start on that. We can do susceptibility once miasms are done. Yeah. Shobha, the past webinars are all available on our website called ilovehomeopathy.com. Let me see if I can share the link. Hold on. Ken's philosophy. Yeah, but which topics? Okay, hold on. Let me share my email ID so that you people can stay in touch with me on that. That's my email ID, so you can all contact me if there are any issues. Yeah, thank you so much for your feedback. Yesterday you told you will explain about carbo-nitrogenoid concentration. I did explain. I gave such a big explanation on carbo-nitrogenoid. See, I've written it over there, no? Von Grauvogel's classification. Okay, if you've missed it or if you couldn't hear it, I'll tell you in short. So von Grauvogel's classification, carbon and nitrogen are the two most common compounds present, most common elements present on the earth, as well as, in organic chemistry. So as living organisms, the most common elements found are carbon and nitrogen. So any disturbance or any, functional deviation in these elements will cause symptoms and will cause disorders. So Sora, being purely functional in its dysfunctional in its manifestation, is called a carbo-nitrogenoid constitution. That way, psychosis corresponds to hydrogenoid because there is disturbance in the fluid. Fluid is nothing but water. So excess of fluid. I'm not talking about just drinking too much of water or something. It's about having edema, dropsy, effusion, cysts, vesicles, things like that, where there is abnormal fluid collection in the body. So their psychosis is the miasm in question. And last is oxygenoid. So what happens is the oxidative states, oxidation of elements or ions is not a very good function for the body. It causes destruction. So destruction is nothing but syphilis. So syphilis is the oxidative state. Okay, so just a notification to all of you, by first week of September, all the student videos will be shifted to another platform. Since a lot of people are not comfortable with I Love Homeopathy or not able to find the videos or it's not being uploaded, we are planning to take all of the student videos. That is what we are presenting on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Materia Medica and Philosophy Organon. We'll put it all under one platform and you'll be able to view all of them comfortably. Once it is online, we'll post a notification here. So if that is all, we'd like to close the session. I hope this has been of some benefit. You can all copy down what is put up here because this is how we are going to study all the three miasms. The history, the development of the disease, of the chronic disease, then the theme behind it, then the manifestations, the von Grauvogel's classification, corresponding drugs. Sometimes we can take one drug and understand the entire miasm because it's so easy to match the symptoms of the two. Okay, so take a screenshot or something and use this for your reference. It will help you out. When we were doing lycopodium, I compared sulfur, calcareous, carbon, lycopodium and told the difference between the three. So maybe next, whenever we choose to do either sulfur or calcareous carb, we can mention that one more time. PDF of previous lectures, please upload that. Sorry, but they're all PowerPoint presentations, so I don't know how we'll put them up as PDF. We'll see. We'll see if we can have them, have the slides also, whether the students can share the slides. Yeah. But the point is for you to understand, because then after that you can create your own notes and have your own theories and have your own method to study and understand. Remember, cause and history of the disease is important. The symptom can be the same in all the three miasms, but cause and manifestation are very different. Okay, so if this is all, we can close today's session. It's been a very good session, very long session, and hopefully it was a satisfying one also, because um, we've been asking for this for a long time, and we're finally doing it. Don't get too confused and don't get too muddled up about miasms. It's very basic. Miasms are nothing but, just remember that Hahnemann didn't know what germs were, he didn't have too much of knowledge or too many investigations to fall back upon. So he had to create these theories, but then he's done such a good job that it's still applicable today. It can be applied even to modern conditions. We can even interpret the modern conditions and say that what miasm it falls under. Yeah, the slides were very good. Slides definitely were very good, and especially with the symptoms and the photos that she has posted with them. It's a very good job. So next session we will do psychosis next week, next Thursday. So again, read up Herbert Roberts. Read up a little bit about von Grauvogel's classification. Couple of psychotic remedies. Thuja obviously being the number one, role model for psychosis. Thuja and nitric acid. But then you'll be surprised how many more antipsychotic remedies you have. So natrum sulf is another beautiful antipsychotic remedy. So read a little bit, see if you can match the symptoms of these remedies with those of the syphilitic miasm itself. Let's meet on the next webinar. Sure. It's mark the date, next Thursday. Yeah, so coming Wednesday is belladonna from Materia Medica, and Thursday will be psychosis. So you all can confirm. We'll be sending the links soon. And yes, I'm also excited for psychosis. It's a more colorful and a more exciting remedy because all the complaints are very external. They're all very, the patient or the sufferer itself is a big extrovert, very expressive. So psychosis is interesting to study. It's very colorful. Whereas syphilis is very, suppressed and very secretive, internally destructive. Psychosis is externally destructive, externally crazy. So let's study that and have fun with that. So if that is all, I wish you all a good night and thank you so much for attending. And see you all next Wednesday for those of you who want to attend belladonna, and for those of you who want to attend psychosis, the miasm. See you on next Thursday. If that is all, I'd like to close the session and end it. Good night.